Hi, and welcome to the Other World podcast for the first week of October. We're actually into October now. We're at the 4th. And welcome, Fee, to the week, into the month.
Hi. Hi.
How's everything going with you the beginning of the month? How are things?
Well, yes. I'm not sure yet. It's like we've just started and there's a lot of expectations this month for it to be different. Not quite sure how different yet, but I feel like we're starting the month maybe, I think I said last week that the week for me had just been very solid, and that kind of seems to be how we're moving forward, or how I feel I'm moving forward this month too. How about you?
Yeah, I kind of feel like things are, we might get it starting to move a little bit, things progressing. It certainly feels that way for me. Like I've had some really kind of significant moments in my chart and with my aspects. So I've just noticed that there's some particular like destiny moments for me. And I'm really following some pretty clear signs right now. I mean, one of which I kind of brought up with you that, and actually you encouraged me to do, and that is start taking on personal astrology readings, which, I just hadn't even considered it, even though I've had quite a few people ask me, over the last year or so. And it was just this idea that there's so many astrologers out there, like, what can I add? And of course, everyone looks at things differently. If I thought that about my art, I'd never create anything, because there's lots of artists out there, but none of them are doing what I do. So I decided to dive into that. And, the realization that I've probably been studying astrology for, 5 or 6 years. That's a fair amount of time to really immerse yourself in a subject. And with astrology, the more you know, the less you know, if you know what I mean. It's so endless. But there's specific things that really interest me that I can bring a unique kind of look at. So that began this week, which was huge for me. I did a few readings.
How exciting. And I'm so pleased to hear that you stepped into it, because it felt last time we were talking about this that it was really important for you to do that. So I love that you're sharing that work with people in a different way now. It's
Yeah, and even
cool.
if it's not if I do it for a while, and it always feels like a step to me, like whenever I'm sort of guided towards something, it's I got to kind of trust that is what's next, whether that is what I do forever or whether that leads me on to something. I don't know. I'll let that part go and just know that I'm being called to do this part.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I mean, that sense of solidity, and I'm sorry, I'm apologizing for my camera. It's breathing at the moment. I don't know what it's doing. It keeps going in and out like that, which is very odd. But yeah, it feels like there's this sense of we're starting this month with building a foundation of some sort, which is definitely what I'm going to be speaking to this week with the energies. And so that feeling of solidity that I've been noticing within myself, it's almost like I've been anchoring in or hunkering down, or just becoming really solid within myself. And that's definitely what I'm noticing as we move into this first week of October.
Yeah, I think that will tie quite nicely in with what I have to share. So I might just dive into that now, Fee. I'll just
Okay.
change the view. Right. Okay, I'm going to start the beginning of October. I'm going to talk a little bit about the month, not too much, but just give an idea of where we're going with the month. And then speak a little bit more directly about the first week, which will be the 4th to the 10th. So there's a few things that have gone on at the beginning, but it's Monday today, and that's the 4th. So my card for the month, which kind of goes with that solid feeling that you were talking about, Fee, is the King. Is that the masculine. And It's not surprising that I picked a very masculine card when I look at what's happening during the month of October. We've got a lot of aspects with the sun to begin the month off, and with Mars and with Mercury. But over the whole month, we have 4 major planets going direct. So on the 5th, Pluto goes direct. And then on the 10th, Saturn goes direct. On the 17th, Mercury goes direct, and then Jupiter on the 17th. So you've got all of these masculine forces in the sky finally moving forward. And it may take a little bit of time for them to actually get into that movement, but it does feel like this this moving energy, this like, we've got the support of this masculine behind us to support what work we're putting out there. And when I looked at the masculine, because I then chose a card for the week, so I'll move from that talking about the month into the week, and it was the prayer. And when I think of the masculine, I think about it in 2 ways. Here the Libra is coming out, the balance. There's, first of all, there's the masculine of doing, and the feminine tends to be the receiving, the giving and the receiving. There's sort of the one way of framing masculine and feminine. But then there's the other way of Shakti and Shiva, which is the masculine holds, is presence, is consciousness itself. And the feminine is everything else. So the masculine holds the space for the feminine to move and create and dance. And so a beautiful way to think of that is like the masculine is the riverbeds and the feminine is the water moving through the riverbeds. So there's kind of like this dualness about those 2 energies. When I felt into it, actually with the card, the first card that I got for the week was prayer. Or in other words, devotion or stillness or reverence. And that made me feel that was that stillness and holding of the masculine. And then as the month progresses and a lot of the planets move out of retrograde, we will go into more the doing masculine, the creating and the being out there in the world. So that's how I'm framing those 2 masculine energies and the 2 cards, the prayer and the king. So the first week feels like finding that stillness, finding that strength, grounding, really bringing yourself into presence. And then there may be this forward motion that will happen as the month progresses. So if I look at the first week, we have a new moon in Libra. So there is this balancing feeling. We've got a lot sitting in Libra. We've got the sun, we've got Mars, we've got Medusa, and we've got Mercury all sitting in Libra. And so finding the balance or having almost a decision to make. Libras can sometimes be a little bit indecisive. So there may be that quality with all of these signs there. And particularly with Mercury being in retrograde for the first week still. There's lots of aspecting. In fact, we've got the sun conjuncts with the moon and then conjuncts with Mars. And then we've got the sun also conjuncting with Mercury and Mars conjuncting. So there's all sorts of little exchanges happening there. The sun's going to be the brightest. So when the moon, when we have a new moon, you're going to have all of those bodies all really close together. The sun, the moon, Mercury and Mars. And actually Medusa as well, all really close and being, I guess, in some ways hidden by the sun, because the light of the sun, when you're closest to the sun, you don't see it. And that's why we have a new moon, because you're actually not seeing the moon at that time when it's closest to the sun. But there is this newness to that. So if we maybe take Mercury out of the picture because Mercury's moving backwards, but with the others, there's this feeling of maybe newness, of new beginnings, So that is also feels like a really beautiful way to start the month. We are going to get over the next month, Mercury will come into play a lot, because there's aspects that happen over the next month and a half with Mercury moving retrograde and then going direct. Mercury will come in a trining with Jupiter and then squaring with Pluto, and that will happen a few times. So there's a sense when Mercury is squaring with a planet like Pluto, and Pluto has gone direct, and there may be secrets that might be uncovered. There may be things coming out that might have been hidden, and there might be conversations had, or yeah, just things like secrets, maybe secrets that it might start niggling you and you want to know more about it. In fact, you can almost get a little bit like obsessed with it, and it feels like this is maybe you're going to cross over this place, this story a few times in the next month and a half. So maybe be very aware of where, and there might be something that's come into your awareness that might be a truth or a secret or something uncovering. Just watch the next month and a half. Maybe just let it unfold rather than doing too much about it when you first find out. Wait for more information. So I think I'm going to now pass over to you, Fee.
Beautiful, and thank you for sharing that, Denny. It sounds like it's going to be an interesting month that we're moving into, again, as it always is. But I mean, we're working through this energy that's very masculine as well in terms of a numerology perspective too. So it's nice that there's that kind of synchronicity between those two parts with what we're bringing through. But I guess this may be a slightly different reflection on that masculine energy as well, which we can all kind of work with. So we're kind of currently in week 40 of 2021. So this really marks the start of a 10-week cycle of the 4 energy, where all the week numbers start with 4. So that archetype, the 4 archetype, is going to be weaving its way through all of our experiences for the next 10 weeks. And so it will be a kind of underlying energy that we're working with during that time. And that will happen up until around the 9th of December. So we're going to be working with this 4 energy, but it's also the energy that is supporting you in a really big way this week, because it's all about 4 as we're in week 40. So 4 is really the number of strength, determination, perseverance, and also self-belief, amongst other things. So it's all about hard working and bringing order to disorder. It's a very foundational number that kind of creates a sense of, I would say, safety and security. It's the energy that really helps you to get organized. And more importantly, stay organized once you've got organized. So it connects you to the part of yourself that is disciplined and gets things done. So this is a great week to build some foundations, to work through things that you've maybe been putting off because they maybe felt too hard or too difficult or too overwhelming. And this is a great time to create a more solid footing for the next steps that you want to take. So a lot of what we've all been experiencing over the last year or two has been guiding us towards really creating for ourselves a new way of life. And we've all been letting go of the old way. And at the same time, we've been kind of carving out the new path forwards. So we've all been asked to really reframe our lives or simplify our lives, so that we can go back into, I guess, community, to support each other more, to focus on what is important and let go of what actually isn't important, really, when we think about it. And it has been a bit of a confusing time, as we've had to really completely revisit how we live and reassess our lives and refocus in a new way. So the energy that we're sitting in this week is really supportive in helping you to create a new foundation for yourself, in helping you to create that path forwards for yourself. And you can really use this energy, I think, to guide you into really understanding what a new way of life will look like for you at a personal level, because it starts within, and then we can take that out into our communities and then out into the collective as a new way for us all to start working. So this 4 energy is really strong and foundational, but it's also about family and home and land and earth. So this week, I feel that you may be more conscious of those aspects of life. You will be more conscious of your personal footprint on the earth and what you can do maybe to improve it in some way. This is a great time to commit to something that helps the earth, because this energy really solidifies your commitment to things. So we can use the 4 energy to really create strong commitment within ourselves. So if you've been thinking about maybe taking action to support the environment or the earth in some way, this week is actually the perfect time to do that. 4 energy is really about long-term commitment. And think about what you do in your life now that affects your home, your family, and the earth in the future. What is the legacy maybe that you personally want to create? What kind of world do you want to give to your children or to your grandchildren? And what action can you take now to help create that for them? So this is really definitely a week when you may find those questions rising from within and start to feel more inspired to take action around them. So keywords really for this week are foundations, commitment, self-discipline, and land or earth. And that's generally where I think you'll find most of your focus is going this week. Oh, and my card, which incidentally was very absolutely, I never know if you can see it or not, but it's actually the 6 of earth. So it was no surprise really to draw this card today. It really seems to support that energy that we're sitting in this week, creating a stronger foundation for how we live, maybe how we live off the land with a deeper respect for the planet that we call home. And that brings abundance to us all. And 6 is all about nurturing and the Great Mother herself. So it brings us back into that conscious awareness of how we are living now and what we need to change to create what we want moving forwards.
I love that focus on the earth and what we can do. You know, that it seems that we've been so focused on so many other things in this world, and you know, at the background of everything is what we're actually doing, you know, to our natural world. So every little bit helps. I mean, just I noticed that during COVID, I have a keep cup, and you couldn't use them during COVID. Had to, if you went to buy a coffee, they wouldn't take your cups. And I'd got out of the habit of using mine. And that's just something that's come into my awareness over the last week, is like, where is my keep cup? They will use that now. I mean, it's small, but it makes me feel good when I'm just doing that one thing, because there are so many coffee cups that are just disposed of without even a thought to what that's doing to the environment. So I think also just those small things that we can do and that we mindlessly maybe don't do. And, you know, I'm definitely, I do that too. And I just think, gosh, there's so many things that we get used to because they make our lives so easy. And really, how much more difficult is it to just take that little extra step that will then benefit the planet in a much bigger way. And funnily enough, there was a news report I saw, and they were talking about the fires that happened in New South Wales, and just the loss of life to the wildlife and the land, and the long-term effects of those awful fires. It kind of feels timely that was actually a story that was brought up just yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we can really use this energy for at the moment is building that new foundation for the planet. You know, we can take it down to that individual level, and every small step that we take, like you suggested there, is a beautiful way to support that. It's you know, we can't really underestimate how powerful one small step like that can be if we all take a small step to do something that helps the planet. It's massive when we put it all together. So, you know, I think using this week, it really feels like we're going to be drawn into that awareness this week to really make some choices around that. And because we're working with this 4 energy, we can really commit to it now. We can really change that habit of, you know, just doing the easy option and really find a new way through it.
I love that. It also occurred to me that when we're sort of talking about going into this first week and then the second week, and it actually ties really beautifully in with us coming out of lockdown, which will happen really the second week. I think it's the 11th here, so it'll be in our next podcast. So this week, having that, creating that foundation, as you said, maybe sitting a little bit stiller, because we are going to be moving in a much bigger way. And I love that idea of, you know, we're going out into the world. Let's go out this time. We've done it before, and it was almost like, can we just get back to the way things were? And I think Yia, when we did our truth series, said it really well, and that is, we don't want to go back. We want to go forward in a new way. You know, that kind of normal wasn't normal. What can we do now that we're opening up again? And so we're being told that we're not going to be going back into lockdown. How can we go out this time into the world with more consciousness and more awareness of our footprint?
That's it, exactly. And, you know, and think of it as an opportunity, because where we're at now is our new foundation. We're building from this place. We're not going backwards, we're building from here. So what do we want our world to look like? How do we want to show up in the world ourselves? And what do we want to create in the world around us now? So these are all really big questions that we can work with this week with this energy, and get some beautiful insights from within ourselves as to how we can take action then around that.
Beautiful. And what about
very serious, isn't it?
What about the Akasha?
Well, the Akasha, as always, seems to really align to this energy. When I went in there this morning, I was wondering where the message was going, as I was sometimes I type it and sometimes I write it, depend on how it's coming through. I think I was typing it this morning, and it was like, oh, where's this going? This feels really odd, but bear with me as I go through it. So the message I received from the Akasha this morning when I went in to ask for a message for our listeners today was, if you were given complete freedom to build the home of your dreams, what would it look like? Would you focus on the new path of sustainability and eco-friendly design, or would you build a mansion based on your old concepts of bigger is better? This is exactly what you are being asked to do with your life right now. You are guided this week to create a life that not only supports you in the most joyful way, but also supports your community, the collective, and most importantly, the planet. Think about your choices and how they sustain the earth, or how they add to the waste and clutter of our previous disposable society. You have complete control over your choices, and what you choose now impacts everyone. So perfect alignment with the energies that were coming through and that we're working with this week, I feel.
It is. Actually, I went for a walk the other day, and it came to mind as you were speaking, because I walked around the cliffs of North Coco, so DY to North Coco, and the mansions that are there on those cliffs. I was just glancing, and so many of them were empty, or I could see one person in them. And it's such beautiful land, and you can walk around it. But I can't help feeling when I see these humongous houses that just have hardly anybody, if anybody, in them. It's like, at what point did we as human beings decide that this was how we wanted to live on this planet, for some to have that and for others to be homeless? And that divide between the two, it's just it's one of those things that really hurts my soul, if that makes any sense. So if I look at the house that I want to create, Fee, I'm a tiny home. I'm dream of living on a really beautiful piece of land with a tiny home, and the outdoors being the focus as opposed to the indoors.
Yeah, and when I sat with the message after it came through myself, I thought, well, what would I build now if I was building a house? And I came up with a sort of mud home that, that sort of sank into the earth, and you didn't see it, but was covered by all of the greenery and had things growing out of its roof and things like that. I just thought that would be spectacular. But yeah, it's I think, again, just we're being invited at the moment to really think about this, because we have to change things. We have to move forward in a new way. So we might as well move forward in a really powerful way for the planet, I think.
Yeah, and nothing's impossible. We can all individually do things different, and that will create a different society and culture.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we're in a time of everything is possible. So that's what makes it so exciting. We can dream these things, but we can also create them. We're in a time where we can create this now. So let's do it. Yeah.
Love that. And with that, we'll see you next week as you go out of focus there, Fee.
As I
Mercury
breathe in and
retrograde
out.
happening there for you.
It always feels like a big breath that my camera is taking for some reason. So yes, anyway, enjoy the week ahead.